Everything changed in a matter of seconds. I mean, literally, in the blink of an eye, the entire landscape of the NFL shifted. Welcome to NFL Nexus, the absolute best place where we break down the most pivotal moments, the biggest contracts, and the absolute highest stakes in professional football. I'm your host, and before we unravel one of the most intense, high-stakes offseason chess matches we have ever seen in the history of this league, do me a quick favor. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for NFL Nexus, leave a like on this explainer, drop a comment down below with what you think about all this, and if you really want to support the deep dives we do here, consider becoming a channel member. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. What we are witnessing right now, what is unfolding before our very eyes, is a full-blown million-dollar arms race in the NFC West. We are talking about what it truly means to be defending the crown. We're talking about the immense, suffocating, unrelenting pressure of maintaining a Super Bowl winning roster when every single team in the league is actively coming for your head. Let me tell you, the air is incredibly thin at the top of the mountain. And staying there, well, that requires bold, expensive, and sometimes borderline reckless aggressive maneuvers. So, ask yourself this. Really put yourself in their shoes. How do you respond when your biggest rival lands a generational threat? Imagine the scene, the absolute tension inside the Seattle Seahawks front office. The offseason is supposed to be a time to finally catch a breath, right? A time to celebrate a hard-fought championship. The confetti from the parade has barely been swept off the streets of Seattle. The championship rings are literally still being sized for the players. There is supposed to be a moment of peace. And then the notification hits. Your phones start blowing up. The Los Angeles Rams, your most bitter divisional rival, the team you were forced to play twice a year, every single year, in a bloodbath of a matchup, just landed a generational threat. They just violently tipped the scales. In a matter of seconds, the peace is completely shattered. This wasn't just a regular run-of-the-mill trade. This was an existential dilemma for the Seattle front office. Because in the NFL, when a rival makes a move that completely alters the geometry of the football field, silence is absolutely not an option. Inaction, not an option. You are immediately forced to look at your own roster, open up your war chest, and decide exactly how you are going to protect your quarterback while terrorizing theirs. Section 1. The NFC West Arms Race. The target on Seattle's back. Look, being the champions doesn't buy you grace in this league. It buys you enemies. Every single team in the NFL spent their entire offseason doing one thing: studying the Seattle Seahawks. They analyzed every single defensive scheme, every offensive tendency, and every minute personnel grouping. When you sit on the throne, every other franchise is actively constructing a roster specifically designed to dismantle yours. And the NFC West? It is arguably the most brutal, physical, downright violent division in all of football. It is a division won and lost in the trenches. And for Seattle, knowing that a massive target is painted squarely on their back means that resting on their laurels is the quickest way to become a forgotten footnote in NFL history. Just look at this dominance on display here. Super Bowl LX champions, Seattle Seahawks 29, New England Patriots 13. Now, I need you to really process that score. This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a lucky bounce of the ball. This was a systematic, cold-blooded dismantling of an opponent on the world's biggest stage. Holding an opponent to just 13 points in a modern NFL Super Bowl with the rules skewed toward offenses requires a defense that is nothing short of terrifying. Seattle built their entire championship identity on this defensive dominance. But here is the golden rule of the NFL. The moment you prove a concept works, someone else is going to try to build a bigger, faster, scarier version of it. And that is exactly what happened. Section 2. The Rams strike first. An aggressive move to dethrone the champions. The Los Angeles Rams sat at home, watched Seattle lift that Lombardi trophy, and simply decided they wouldn't just sit back and take it. The Rams operate with a ruthless, unapologetic win-now mentality. It is in their DNA. So they decided to strike first in this offseason arms race, sending an absolute shockwave, not just through the NFC West, but through the entire National Football League. As you can see, they acquired two-time Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett. And look at what they gave up to get him. They traded away Jared Verse, a 2027 first-round pick, and a 2028 second-round pick. That is a king's ransom. They gave up a highly touted young player and immense, incredibly valuable future draft capital because they fundamentally believe that Myles Garrett is the ultimate equalizer. He is the guy who can single-handedly wreck an offensive game plan. But then look over at the other side. For the Seattle Seahawks, TBD. To be determined. That blank, empty space represents the terrifying, deafening silence that immediately followed the trade. Your rival just acquired a literal nuclear deterrent for their defensive line. The entire NFL world was holding its collective breath, staring at Seattle, asking one simple question: what are you going to do about it? Are you going to fold, or are you going to fight back and protect your crown? Section 3. Seattle's $42 million countermove. The Empire Strikes Back. Seattle, as we all know, is not a franchise that cowers in the corner. They're the Super Bowl 60 champions for a very specific reason. They completely understood that the Myles Garrett trade wasn't just a simple personnel upgrade for the Rams. It was a direct declaration of war. It was a challenge to Seattle's utter dominance in the trenches. So how did they answer? They answered with this exact number, $42 million. I just want to let the sheer heavy weight of that financial commitment hit you for a second. $42 million. In the NFL, words mean nothing. Press conferences mean nothing. Money is the absolute ultimate indicator of belief. Teams do not just hand out $42 million based on a hunch or on hope. They hand it out based on absolute certainty. This is an enormous, staggering financial investment. It's a massive number that completely shifts the salary cap dynamic of the entire team for years to come. It is Seattle's front office shoving their chips to the middle of the table, looking the LA Rams dead in the eye and saying, "We see your bets, and we are raising you."
Let's break down exactly what went down by reading this quote directly from ESPN's Adam Schefter. Edge Derek Hull and the Seahawks reached agreement today on a 3-year, $42 million extension that could be worth up to $46.5 million and includes $21 million guaranteed. This was officially confirmed by his agents, Chad Berger and Ezra J. Thompson. Now, the structure of this deal, it is absolutely paramount to understanding this arms race. This is a 3-year extension that firmly locks Hull in Seattle through the 2029 season. But let me tell you what the most important part of this massive deal is. It's right there at the end, that $21 million guaranteed. In the NFL, base salary is a myth. Guaranteed money is reality. Exactly half of the base contract is locked in, meaning there is zero risk for the player. That guaranteed money is what truly shatters the market and sends a message. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the Seahawks view Derek Hull as a foundational cornerstone of their franchise for the rest of this decade. They secured a 25-year-old rising superstar to ensure that while the Rams have Myles Garrett blowing up plays, the Seahawks have their very own long-term nightmare waiting for opposing quarterbacks.
Section 4, the Super Bowl Catalyst, why Derek Hull is the chosen weapon. Now, you might be asking yourself, why commit this level of incredible wealth to Derek Hull? What makes him worth it? To truly understand the magnitude of this extension, we have to look back at his rapid, incredibly violent ascent in this league. Let's look at the cold, hard facts from his first 3 seasons. He has appeared in 48 games, making 17 starts. First of all, that shows extreme durability. In a league where injuries derail seasons in an instant, he is available and he is reliable. The best ability is availability, right? But then it's the on-field production that absolutely jumps off the screen. 105 total tackles, with 12 of them being for a loss. That tells us he isn't just some one-trick pony pass-rushing specialist. He is getting his hands dirty and stopping the run behind the line of scrimmage. But then, we get to the truly terrifying metrics. 38 quarterback hits. 38 times he has completely broken through a massive 300-pound offensive lineman and put a devastating hit on the opposing quarterback. Do you know what a quarterback hit does? It completely changes the timing of an offense. It induces panic. Add to that 10 full sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. This is a resume of consistent, destructive, game-altering output. And remember the most crucial detail here. He is only 25 years old. This guy hasn't even hit his athletic prime yet. Seattle is paying for what he is going to do, not just what he has already done. But, regular season stats are one thing. Anybody can pad their stats in Week 6 against a backup left tackle. What truly separates good players from absolute legends is what they do when the lights are blindingly bright. In Super Bowl LX, Derek Hull played almost exactly half the defensive snaps for Seattle, 49.3%. And in that limited time, he recorded 2 massive sacks and a forced fumble. He essentially made the Patriots' offensive line look like turnstiles on the sport's biggest, most pressure-filled stage. He didn't shrink under the immense pressure, he actively thrived in it. He took the game over. When you perform like that in a Super Bowl, you prove to your coaches, your teammates, and the front office that you possess a clutch gene that simply cannot be taught or coached. That single performance directly justified the front office's decision to hand him a blank check. They knew they had an absolute killer on their roster, and they made sure to lock him down before anyone else could even think about poaching him. Section 5. Impact on the division. The balance of power shifts. We really have to zoom out for a moment here, because the pace of this arms race is staggering. It's breathtaking. This isn't just about the Rams and the Seahawks existing in a vacuum. Look at this timeline. In February 2026, Seattle thoroughly dominates the Super Bowl. They are the kings of the world. But then almost immediately in the offseason, LA completely shatters the peace by trading for Myles Garrett. And then the immediate lightning-fast response, Seattle locks down Derek Hall. Look at how compressed this timeline is. NFL supremacy is incredibly fleeting. You are challenged literally the minute the parade ends. There is no time to rest. This rapid-fire escalation forces the other teams in the division, teams like the Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers, to completely reevaluate everything. If you are the 49ers right now, you are looking at these two defensive fronts and realizing you have to completely overhaul your offensive line and your quick passing game just to survive 6 divisional games a year. The standard for merely competing in this division just skyrocketed overnight. I guarantee you the front offices in the NFC West do not sleep.
Section 6, the war just began, preparing for the 2026 season.
So the ink is finally drying on the contracts, but let me be clear, the prologue is over. Now we have to look ahead to the brutal, physical reality of the upcoming 2026 season. These two incredibly stacked, heavily armed rosters are going to collide twice in the regular season. What we have here is the ultimate matchup of team-building philosophies. On one side, the Rams are relying heavily on the established veteran threat in Myles Garrett. He is a known commodity. He is a surefire first-ballot Hall of Famer who guarantees immediate contention right this very second. Seattle, conversely, is betting entirely on their homegrown, ascending 25-year-old champion in Derek Hall. They drafted him, they developed him in their system, and they are betting $42 million that his youth, his hunger, and his upward trajectory will yield massive dividends all the way through 2029. It is the proven, terrifying superstar versus the rising, hungry king. Both of these front offices made incredibly high-stakes, multi-million-dollar decisions based on these very distinct strategies, and only one of them can be right. Which leaves us with one massive, lingering question as we wrap up this explainer. As this NFC West arms race continues to escalate to unprecedented heights, whose multi-million-dollar gamble will ultimately rule the division? Will Myles Garrett be the final, destructive piece that pushes the Rams over the edge? Or will Derek Hall prove that Seattle's defensive empire is built to last for the long haul? One thing is absolutely for certain. When these two teams step onto the gridiron, the collisions in the trenches are going to be monumental. The ground is going to shake. This story is far, far from over. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus. Let me know who you think won this offseason battle in the comments below. Leave a like and consider supporting our deep dive content by becoming a channel member. Until next time, keep your eyes on the trenches.